Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Nathan's 3D Factory. In this episode, we're going to do a continuation of last week's episode, where we modeled an umbrella, or at least got a start on it, right? So now we're going to continue this, and so right now we have the basics of the canopy and the stalk. I guess that's what you call them. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start putting together the mechanism to pull it closed, okay? So the first thing that I want to do is that I want to add a cylinder. So I'll do Shift A. Okay. So now I got that. So here's our pull mechanism, and then in a moment I'm going to do another mechanism for the stop. So I'm going to grab this by pressing G, Z. I'm going to pull this up to an approximate location here to where I think that it's going to have it opened up. So this is by no means anything advanced, but it'll give you an idea of what I'm doing here. So now I can tab into edit mode. I'm going to scale on like Z axis a little bit, and then I'll scale along the not Z by doing Shift Z on there. And about there, right? So again, this is nothing too precise. So right here, what I want to do is that I want to inset these faces here, and then I want to have a nice hollow spot here. So to do that, I'm going to go into face selection mode by pressing 3, and I'll just get the top and bottom faces. I for inset. And then there's a good place for it right there. Control E, and I want to bridge edge loops. So now what I've done is that I've hollowed this out so that on the top and bottom there, it comes together. And I can put this in local view to give you that idea. There we go. So now what I want to do is that I want to do Control 2 on here. Actually, I should have done that in object mode. So tab out, Control 2. Okay. Now I have a subdivision surface of level 2 on here. Now it's definitely thinned down. I think I want to remove some extra vertices. Okay, looks like we don't have to worry about that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some edge loops here by pressing Control R. I'm going to pull this up here. And then I want to have this so that it'll be a mechanism that can be actuated just by kind of stopping the thumb and forefinger, right? It'll give something to grip onto. So now I'm going to take all these faces by pressing 3 on the numpads, or not on the numpad, but on the numbers. E, S, Shift Z. And then we're going to pull that outward. Click until we've got the place that we want. And then I'm going to add some control edge loops to control where the rounding happens, all that stuff. Control R here. I'll put one up here. All right, I also want to do the same for here. Pull it inward. Pull this outward. Okay, and then I'll do the same here. I can actually take this one, Alt, and click that. Shift, V. Oops, okay, we'll try this. Edge slide. Control E to do the edge slide. Sometimes doing Shift V, it's the vertex slide, but sometimes it can have some unpredictable results. Okay, we'll do Control R and slide it up toward the top here. Same for the bottom. I want to do a little bit more, so I'll do this one, edge slide again. Okay. And then just a couple more here. All right. And then I'm going to shade this smooth. There we go. So, got a nice little actuator mechanism. Okay, now we'll press the slash to get back into our regular view instead of our local. And now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and I'm actually going to call this actuator. Now I'll copy that and put it into the data. Okay. And then I'm going to copy this by pressing Shift D, Z. Okay. Then we'll call this one the stop. So if you know the terminology, feel free to comment in the comments below. Here we go. So there we go. So we have that for kind of like the hub that some of our hinges are going to go off of, right? And then I'm going to do one final object up here. So I'll go into one vertex mode, Shift S, cursor to selected, tab out. Now I'm going to add another cylinder. Okay, there we go. All right, and then I'm going to change the depth on this and maybe increase the radius. Yeah, I might decrease that a bit. There we go. Okay. And this one I'll just call the cap. Okay, there we go. And then I want to shade that smooth. And it looks kind of ugly with that shading, doesn't it? So, let's see. Actually, tab out of edit mode. Control 2. All right, we're going to do the same thing here. And then we're going to do the control edge loops. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we'll do that. I'm going to inset. And then I'm going to do Control F and grid fill. Okay. We'll do the same thing down here. Inset. And honestly, I'm not going to worry about if this is intersecting or not. I'm just going to do this. Okay. Looks pretty good, right? So now what I have to do is I have to get the poles that are going to be going out to telescope on these, right? So we're going to have some poles that are going to be kind of a three-piece situation, okay? So we're going to have the ones that come off of here, off of this object, and we're going to have some that come off of the stop, and then we're going to have the extender poles, and we're going to stop that for this episode, and then we'll rig them up for the next one, okay? So one thing that I also want to do is that I want to parent this to this. So we'll do the parent to object, and I'm going to do the same thing here too, okay? Control P, object. Okay, so now, actually, I'm also going to do the same thing here. So everything will be parented to the stalk. I'll even do the same for the canopy right now. Okay, so now if I move this around, everything moves with it, okay? Very important to have that kind of stuff with the parent-child relationships. So, one thing I did in this on the canopy on the last episode was I did a subdivision. But another thing I want to do is that I want to solidify it, just to give it a little bit of thickness. Solidify. So it doesn't have to be anything too fancy or anything. Alright. Do an even thickness on this. So then it has some thickness. Okay. And then I'll just save this just in case if anything goes south. Alright. So now what we're going to do is look at the overhead view. And right here, I can see that we have 8 poles that we have to do. So, to get those 8 poles, I'm going to have some that are going to be straight and some that are going to be curved. So, right here, I'm going to put Shift S, cursor to selected. Yeah, actually, I'm going to go into this. Okay. Alright, I'm actually going to go into here. 2, edge select. There we go. Shift S, cursor to selected. Okay. Now, I'm going to do some poles that are going to extend out. So what I'll do is I'm just going to add a very simple circle. Okay, and I'm going to take it to 8 vertices. And then I'm just going to take it way down in the radius. This is something I could probably do with the curves, but for now I'm just going to do this. Okay. So fill type, I'll just do a triangle fan. Okay, I'll tab into edit mode. Z. Okay. There we go. Alright, and then I'll get out of edit mode. Or, I'll tab out of edit mode and get back out of the, get out of this, this view here. Okay, and then I want to scale this on the Z-axis a little bit more. Okay. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go on the side view, rotate this about the X-axis. And then I want to pull this out, G, Y. Okay. And this will have the extended position right here. Okay. And then what I can do is I can get it so that we get kind of get it kind of tangent to what's going to be happening out here in the umbrella. Okay. So we're just going to do it along the local Z-axis. Okay, and so we'll extend it to about, not quite there, S, Z, Z. Okay, so, and I can make corrections on this as I go, but this will at least give us something to go with, okay? So, now that we've got that, what we can do is that we can say, all right, well, that's good there. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift D, R, Z. And that one, we're going to do at a 45-degree angle. There we go. Actually, I think what I want to do is I want to get this so that the pivot is on the 3D cursor. Okay. So now Shift D, R 45 negative. Okay, and we're just going to keep doing that. Shift D R Z 45. Okay, I should have done it on the Z axis. I didn't, but Shift D R Z 45. We're just going to keep doing that. I can rename these later. Okay. Z, not X, 45. Okay. So now we have all these guys so that they're up. Okay. So now we also have some secondary poles that we are going to put up here that these poles slide along. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that first pole that I did and I'll have that so that it gets pulled up. Okay. G, Z. Oops. Shift D, Z, not G. All right, let's see. Okay, so now let's get this back to its median point. Okay, R. R. Okay. This gives us something to go with. Okay, so now, let's see. So these are going to ultimately have these endpoints sliding along this. So now, what I'll do is that I want to have this so this gets duplicated as well. So now I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing the same thing. Oh, and I just realized I didn't do the right thing with the pivot point. Okay, so I want to go back to 3D cursor as the pivot point. Shift D, R, Z, 45. Shift D, R, Z. $45. So we just keep doing that. So sorry about that. Okay, let's see. Okay, now I gotta get back into this screen here. Thank you, Dropbox. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Okay, good. So I didn't accidentally do another one. Shift D, RZ, 45. Okay. All right, so now I have these all paired up. So, not bad here. Okay. So, and then what I can do, just so I don't get it too long, just because it did it again. So, let's see. So, to make sure that this doesn't go too much on time, I'm going to keep this pretty basic. and I'm going to get the spines that go along here. And they're going to be kind of like a springy pole spine, whatever you want to call it, right? Let's see. Okay, so we got that. Okay. I'm actually going to go into here. Okay, cursor to selected. Okay. And then I think for this one, I'm actually going to use a curve. Okay. Let's see. I wonder if I can do an empty curve. Guess not. Well, you know what? Poly curve. Just not going to be nice to me today. NURBS curve. Let's delete those vertices. Okay. And then what I can do is I can go into the draw mode. And I can just do a freehand one. And then I can add or subtract points as I need. Okay. So then what's nice is that with these points, all I have to do is just adjust them accordingly. Then something else that I can do is I can also rig these up later with a skeleton, do an armature object. Okay, and I'm going to move this down. Get rid of this one. All right, let's see. How is this working? Yeah, I'm going to get rid of this vertex. Okay. So now, what I'll do next is that I'm going to add some geometry to this. Okay. So we'll go to bevel. And then we're going to increase the radius on this bevel. And then I'm just going to take that down a little bit. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to copy this around 7 more times here. Okay. Shift D, R, Z, 45. Do the same thing. So a lot of repetitive work here. And that's a lot of what this 3D modeling stuff is anyway, is you get a lot of repetition. So here we go. All right, so now we have a mechanism to be able to get all this stuff so it'll open and close. So now we have a good structure here to where we can say, all right, well, this is going to be a good umbrella to open and close stuff, right? So, so the next thing I want to do, just to wrap this up, is that I want to get this so that it meets up with this point here. I'll do the same thing for all the rest of these, right? So I'm going to go back to median point. Okay, so I'm going to rotate about the x-axis locally on these, okay? All right, so now let's use this. So negative 3.25. Okay, so we're going to copy that, Then we're going to press R. Oh, let's see, R. And then we're going to do X-axis local. Okay. All right, that didn't quite work there. All right. All right. So here's something I can do then instead. So I could just take these other ones that I just made and just delete them, right? Instead of going through all that rigmarole. Okay, we'll do that. And we'll go back into our pivot for pressing the period key, 3D cursor, and then Shift D, R, Z. Now there's a lot of this duplicating around the Z axis at 45 degrees, right? Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we have our structure that we can use for the umbrella. So now we have our opening mechanism. So right now we're going to close this for this tutorial. So let me know what you think of this tutorial in the comments below. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed this, and subscribe to this channel for our regular updates. We do weekly tutorials every Saturday. So, again, I really appreciate you going and checking my stuff out. Also, check out nathans3dfactory.com for stuff that we're adding to our shop to help support our channel. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.